Welcome to the Pricing for Growth podcast. Our guest today is Alexa, and she's been in pricing and packaging for a while now in different capacities and in different SaaS companies. So thank you, Alexa, for joining us on the podcast today. My first question is, how did you get into pricing and packaging?
It's my pleasure to be here. The world of monetization came to me by chance. I started my career in management consulting, and I found it to be very monotonous, very hierarchical, and very unrewarding in a lot of ways. And in so many different forms, I felt like a fraud. Like the work that I was advising on, I didn't know much about. I didn't know what it meant to do this type of work. And I felt like I wanted to get more out of my career and where I was spending my time. I picked up a couple of different books at this point, and one of them was the book Subscribed by Gjonca. And in that book, I came into the world of understanding that the way in which we purchase and interact with our personal services and our personal products, and both those that we use in businesses, is changing. Our purchasing mechanisms are changing. The way in which we want to interact and gain value is changing. And it all comes together through this lens of monetization. And how is monetization presented? Through pricing and packaging. It ended up being pretty, like, the stars are aligned, and Profitwell actually reached out to me shortly after and was like, hey, you have a background of somebody who may excel in this field. Are you interested in learning what it takes to be a pricing strategist? So I entered the world of pricing strategy in early 2021, where I stepped into being a strategist at Price Intelligently. And there, my passion and desire for looking at the world of business through monetization really blossomed. It's not only just about what is the price and what is the package that you're offering, but what are the processes, the systems, the structure that you can put in place to continuously monetize on value, right? And through that, I was able to gather a great perspective that I've taken on in my career. I moved from being a strategist at Price Intelligently to being an internal operator now at two very distinct companies at very different points of their growth. And I've gotten to see a pretty interesting array of projects and challenges that businesses in this modern day landscape are facing when it comes to how they want to position their growth and what keeps them going. And also, what do the customers value and how do they bring that together? I love this space. It's interesting to be in. So yeah, that's how I entered it.
That's amazing journey. In your previous roles, like roles after Profit, when you have been in the operator role for pricing and packaging, what are the different pricing strategies?
Yeah. So it's when I think about the role of pricing, think about the task of assigning a price or understanding pricing and packaging. And we know we're comfortable with the good, better, best. It's what we expect to see when we land on a pricing page, but it's not necessarily the engine for every company's growth. There's the packaging structure that really comes into play of how do we offer our services and our products. And then there's the pricing structure that comes into play as well. And one of the biggest challenges I've seen and experienced both as a strategist in this field and as an operator is, how do you strike the balance between the two? When is something really a package that has an assigned pricing structure versus when do you have an array of packages and you can optimize the way they're delivered through a customizable pricing structure? And it really depends on your customers. How do they value to purchase it? Where are the expansion levers and mechanisms? What metrics are you assigning to your growth and to your business? And I think most companies have an ambition to get beyond a certain NRR, right? We always look to go above and beyond 100% NRR. We look to go above and beyond 120% NRR. What does that take? Typically, a good, better, best doesn't do it, right? Especially with the user-based price model. What is the other pricing structure you bring in? I think most companies will lean on the good, better, best, but I think there's no real playbook in place right now to help advise founders, executives, and even strategists that are assigned with these roles on how to expand beyond that at the moment. I think it's one of the main challenges we face in this world of pricing and packaging.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In your experience, is there one good place for pricing as a function?
I don't think there's a one size fits all for where to bring in a pricing expert within your organization. I really think it has to do with where you are within your growth and how you've built your systems and product to accommodate for pricing. The moment you decide to shift, whether it is your product line and your product strategy or the market that you are trying to target is the moment you have to bring your strategist back into your product. I think one thing that is often overlooked is the complexity of integrating effective packaging and pricing into the foundation of your product.
Yeah.
Now, if you're building a low-code, no-code solution, oftentimes that's a non-factor, right? We're not thinking about those types of offerings and how you incorporate packaging and pricing structures. But if you are building an enterprise offering, a platform offering, a highly complicated, heavily engineered offering, you have to bring your pricing and packaging expert into your product. And the reason for that is because you oftentimes have a homegrown billing system.
Mm-hmm.
You oftentimes have a ton of technical debt to take care of when it comes to integrating new functionality and new products. And you have to think about, okay, if we are introducing this product, does it fit with how we offered this before? Does it fit with our current value metric? If we're going into that market, does it fit into how that market expects to interact with this product? And by orienting your pricing strategist, your pricing expert into your product org, you take on the product mindset. You think about requirements, you think about scoping, you think about the technical aspects, and you're better able to orchestrate all of the different things that need to come together to actually get that product to market and out the door. You can also argue that at that point, if you're making a big decision around, I want to expand into this market, into this geo, into this product category, into whatever it may be, that a pricing strategist should actually live at the executive level or directly align with them. Most companies have some sort of function associated with strategy, but not all have a dedicated organization to just strategy. And there's a lot of vetting that needs to go on before you fully decide what you want to do. Is the market receptive to this type of package? Do they actually want to purchase this? What is the metric by which they want to be charged? We ask these questions, and there are playbooks out there that are being used, that are being adjusted and being adapted, and those need to be brought in at the strategic level. I think once you decide on the strategy, once you have a clear vision, you can then bring that pricing specialist into product and execute from there. If you have the strategy, if you have the vision, if you have an easy product that you can easily manipulate or adjust, then it makes sense to bring in that person, perhaps in a marketing or PMM capacity, where the real goal is just to say, okay, we're introducing this, what should be the package associated with it? Or we're introducing this, what should be the price point and marketing play associated with it? But most times, especially for companies that began their journey in 2010 to 2020, there is a lot of debt that is at the foundation of how they want to build. And so you need to have somebody who's able to balance the technical aspects and the more go-to-market positioning aspects of pricing and packaging.
That's amazing. I'm a little biased in terms of what the next question I'm going to ask you. There's technical debt involved when it comes to billing systems, but I know that it keeps building. But in your experience, how bad is that problem?
It can be a massive problem. It can be a growth limiting challenge if you don't address it early on. I've seen it play out in various ways, and typically we try to reverse engineer the decision we make when we push a certain offering out. And we say, okay, we're going to put it in this package. We're going to offer it in this manner. And we make that decision early on in the process of bringing something to market without necessarily putting together the requirements of how is it going to show up within our infrastructure? How is it going to be recognized? How do we need to adjust this time? And the reality of it is most product orgs and the rest of their cross-functional stakeholders operate in very different ways. Product is usually, whether it's agile or waterfall, whatever your methodology for product is usually much more of a process and rigid, in my experience, than the rest of the organization, how they organize their work and what they need to do. Of course, there is an interplay, and good organizations will work hand in hand, but naturally things fall apart when you start to get into the nuances. I think for companies that don't think about the importance of how they are going to be built into the billing aspects of their work and of their offerings and infrastructure, what this could look like, and what it oftentimes does end up looking like, is there's a feature or functionality that's coming out that has a ton of value, that is a marketable moment, that is massive in terms of this company's position in the market. And they say, we need to get this to market by Q4. Yeah. And they run it by, it's the beginning of Q3. They say, we need to get it out by Q4. The engineering team says, hey, we can't support this in its current capacity because of XYZ current state restrictions.
Right.
And the workaround that the business will come to is, okay, we'll just offer it to all existing customers and then have new customers pay for it only. Introduce another level of debt, because it's very difficult at that point to then maintain two separate cohorts in your internal systems. You're recognizing revenue in different ways. Do you have the SKUs built? Do you have the discrepancies that you're going to see in revenue coming in actually calculated appropriately? Do you know when the moment of no longer supporting a legacy system or a legacy SKU is going to come into play? So you add in an additional nuance that you're going to have to manage for the rest of the lifetime of that offering. The moment you decide, I'm going to offer something to my current customers, only charge for prospects to purchase it, unless you are able to cleanly manage that within your systems, you uncover a world of trouble. And maybe that's me being dramatic, but that's what it ends up being, because everything else has to then build off of a nuanced foundation to get to that next level. So that's one way that I've seen it play out is oftentimes you try to distinguish between segmentations in your current customer base in the market of who you want to offer things to. And sometimes that's not the right move, right? Sometimes prospects value something way less, so they won't be able to pay for it, or they won't be willing to pay for it. Current customers value it a whole lot, but you give it to them for free because you've limited yourself on your systems. So not thinking about these things up front and not having them be a requirement of how you want to go about your pricing and packaging can be very detrimental to your growth in the long run.
Amazing. Switching gears a little bit, like in terms of publishing your pricing on websites or making it transparent versus, let's say, there are more of sales-led growth kind of companies, right? Like they don't really publish their pricing on the web page. It's almost like talk to the salesperson first, they understand the demo, and then the pricing discussion comes. In terms of having a good strategy or a thought process, do you think there is a difference between these two approaches, or do you think there is like a overarching pricing strategy that you need to have, whether it's PLG or SLG?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually something I've been contemplating quite a bit recently as like a thought experiment that I've been working through. And I think it all comes back to what is the difference between a packaging structure and a pricing structure. And those two things oftentimes get conflated, but can be pulled apart to support the unique emotions you need. I'm of the belief that your packages, what you offer, how you sell, whether it's individual products, a good, better, best, modules, a la carte, should always be transparent. You should be able to showcase to your customers what it is that they can purchase when they land on your pricing page. Whether it's, e-com purchasing that you're doing with your business or sales-led purchasing that you're doing with your business, you can then tweak your pricing structure to accommodate the type of sale that you want, right? If you want to have a certain size business go and purchase e-com because your sales doesn't have the capacity to do it, that's where you offer your baseline out of the box pricing. And you say, hey, here's what this cost foundationally for these types of offerings. And you reserve your more sophisticated or nuanced pricing structures for sales conversations. What could this look like, right? Let's say you have a good, better, best, that's your out of the box offering, but you also offer a series of enterprise solutions. You can display what those enterprise solutions are and create some level of transparency on what type of pricing flexibility you offer without exposing your prices, right? You can protect yourself from the competitive space, but still give your customers enough information to self-qualify for a discussion with sales. I think we are in an environment where people don't want to talk to people unless they have to.
Yep.
We have so much interaction. We're almost overburdened by the level of interaction we have. And sometimes we know sales can take so long. How do you get somebody into your product and get them to experience value and then want to have that conversation with sales? It could look like giving your customers a trial experience into your best offering and then indicating through that trial experience, hey, you're a sales qualified lead. Don't frame it that way, but you're a sales qualified lead. We have special pricing for you based off of what you've been doing in this product. Let's have a conversation. And that's where you unveil a pricing structure that is solely meant for that type of company that's coming to you. And there you can say, okay, hey, we're not going to charge you per unit or per user. We actually have this all you can eat, or let's say like a platform pricing that's a flat fee. And we can do the math and break it down by unit, but you're getting a way better deal than if you were to go purchase this competitor or this offering or whatever. So I think there's a mix. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think what we do need to start to do as professionals within this space is highlight that there is nuance between a packaging aspect of what our offering is and the pricing structure. And those two things don't need to be one-to-one. They can be a kind of create your own pack journey that gives more to our salespeople and gives more to our customers, right? We crave flexibility. Why not bring it out there?
Amazing points there. I was always of the opinion that a pricing person will be a very good addition to a product team. How easy was the transition for you?
Yeah. So my motivation of getting into a product management role was multifaceted. As I mentioned, I started off my career in management consulting. I felt like a fraud. I felt like I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I wanted to get deeper. And I had a great mentor in college who said, Alexa, you are like a bird in a valley. You get to choose where you want to perch and where you can see everything. Everything below you is something you've already understood. Everything above you is within your reach. Figure out where you want to sit and the world is yours.
Nice.
And that helped me really understand what direction do I want to take in my career. So I made an intentional decision, start off in consulting, get a good grasp on the breadth of all the challenges that are out there, and then aim to go deep. I moved then into a product marketing role. I understood what it meant to be in a packaging and pricing position in the last mile of pushing things forward. And in that role, I started to understand some of the challenges of having a pricing and packaging person within that position, because there are only so many things you can do if the product isn't built to necessarily support certain strategies that you think would be best oriented for that product. So in my experience in being in that, I said, okay, I need to understand how this works in the product because I'm not fully grasping how I can do effective pricing and packaging as a last mile person in this situation. Moving into a product management role was hard. I don't have a technical background in terms of engineering. I don't have a great breadth of technical experience. And so building a case that I could be an effective lead product manager for pricing and packaging took a lot of discussion and hard conversation with those that were evaluating me for the fit. And what I found is, first, product managers have a really difficult job. It's very tough to think about the business strategy and how to bring it together, the technical requirements and how to bring them together, the product, the UX, the metrics. It is a hard job that I have an immense amount of respect for. But I found it to be in my own aspirations of how is the world of business going to change, especially as software continues to progress at lightning speed, to be the right move for me, going from strategic to more ingrained to absolutely in the weeds with the product to get the framework in place that I now know these things that I'm able to share with you and working in this role. It wasn't an easy shift, but one of the biggest pieces of advice I have for my former colleagues and people within this space is being a consultant is fun. It's a lot of fun. It's rewarding. It feels good, but you really don't know what you don't know until you get into the operator role and you have to just feel it. You have to just do it. Like you got to go in and you have to work through all of the hard and make something work. And you realize that when you're in this space of, I have this grand idea, I want to push this through, that there's so much you have to orient together and bring together well to make it a success. And what are the compromises, right? What are the things that need to happen and put in place? I'll give you an example. There's a big focus on pricing pages. They're essentially like the eyes to the business, right? The view of how you see something, of what it could play out. But a pricing page, who is it owned by? Who has stake in what comes into it? What system was it built on? What's happening around it that you can get things? So we see people saying, oh, this pricing page could be better. Oh, this one lacks this, but you don't know what it takes to make those changes until you get into that organization and you're like, oh my God, there is so much I need to unpack here and fix to just get this one thing optimized. And it really humbles you. And it gives you the tools to then say, okay, I now know how to make better recommendations. I know now how to better position my framing so I can actually assist these companies instead of just giving them criticisms that don't necessarily end up going anywhere.
That's amazing. Final question. What would you suggest for a early stage founder that they're trying to launch a product? What is the one thing about pricing that they need to really focus on?
The first recommendation I would have for them is to take their market research seriously. Mm-hmm. There are proven ways to ask questions around how to gain an understanding of the market's responsiveness to your offering and how they want to exchange value for it. And that is key to setting up your North Star of what your strategy is going to be for your product moving forward. Once you establish that, as a founder, your hands are in so many different places. Your mind is in 1,000 places. The moment you can, release the control of wanting to own pricing and packaging and bring in an expert whose sole focus is to do that alongside you and give you the solutions you need to make effective decisions on. Because what I've seen and what I continue to see, regardless of the stage of the company, is that pricing and packaging wants to be owned at the executive level. And it's almost always a recipe for quick failures rather than quick wins. Yeah. Bringing in anybody who is a subject matter expert or passionate about this stuff requires that you, as a leader, acknowledge that you are no longer in full control of that thing and that you shouldn't be, that you should give that control to somebody who has the passion and desire to do it, and that they will work with you once the expectations are properly set and your vision is communicated to support your goal, and that you just have to make the decisions once they present you with the right solutions.
That's awesome. It's awesome. Thanks for joining us today here, Alexa. If someone wants to connect you, where would you be available?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. All of my contact information is there. LinkedIn-in-Alexa Gjonca, and I'll be more than happy to chat. Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to talking more.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexa.